Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah, and I am happy to be with you to share some weird news stories. I hope your week is going well so far. It's only Tuesday, but I've been a day off all week. I keep thinking yesterday was Tuesday and today is Wednesday, but it is not. It is Tuesday. I'm pretty sure. You may need to correct me, but I'm pretty sure it's Tuesday, which means it's a day for weird news. So our first story is actually, it's kind of heartwarming, which you know I like. Weird to me can mean strange, weird, heartwarming, but odd. Just, you know, whatever it is. And this is about a homeless cat who actually had a bit of a lucky break, it turns out. So this is a stray cat in Brazil, and some people got angry about this cat who was homeless, and it was hanging out around the Order of Attorneys of Brazil, which is pretty much the Brazilian Bar Association. And many people got tired of it hanging out and filed complaints about it being in the reception area. What the OAB did was fantastic. It hired the cat as a lawyer to stop the complaints. Not just as, you know, any kind of entry-level employee. No, they hired this cat as a lawyer. I would like to know what kind of law this cat practices, honestly. There is Leon is very cute. Looks a little bit Siamese, and he is wearing his little staff identification card, employee identification card on his collar. It's got a little picture of him. Oh man, he's very cute. So after a heavy rain, Leon was seeking shelter inside the OAB building and just, you know, decided to stay, as cats do. I mean, he found a place that seemed like it was comforting and welcoming, but people started to file complaints about the fact that there was a stray cat at the reception desk who was hanging around and trying to make friends with the newcomers. In order to avoid new complaints, the board gave this solution. Hire the cat as an employee, as I said. So now it's official that Leon is responsible for welcoming the newcomers, whether they like it or not. Okay, so I said before that they hired him as a lawyer, which they did not hire him as a lawyer. They hired him to be the official newcomer welcomer, but then the cat got a promotion and is now a lawyer. When Dr. Jeanette Laredo posted the good news about the cat becoming an official employee of the OAB, that news went viral online. Now, Dr. Leon, the lawyer cat, who welcomes people coming into the OAB, is famous and even has his own Instagram page dedicated to his antics and animal law. Over 30,000 people follow the cat on Instagram. That's pretty impressive because, you know, there's a lot of humans who don't have that many followers on Instagram. And again, there's a picture of his little employee identification badge, and it is so very cute. There is a picture of a lawyer holding little Leon the cat, who is wearing a tie because, well, now he's a lawyer, so he needs to be appropriately dressed. Oh, Leo. This article comes from Bored Panda, who reached out to Dr. Leon, the lawyer cat's representatives on Instagram to hear about the animal. There's a quote that says, in February, it rains a lot in the state of Amapá, Amazonia. So he arrived at OAB fleeing from the rain and thunder. Well, yeah. For a week, he was fed and protected in a box until he got hired. The lawyer's representatives told Board Panda that people filed complaints about the cat because he was very small and they were afraid they'd step on him when he came to meet people. Okay, so there was some decent intentions behind filing the complaints. They weren't just complaining that the cat was there. They didn't want the cat to get hurt. They said there was no space for him because it is a serious institution. So the president determined the hiring and gave him an employee badge. They have outfits. The cat has outfits. I'm going to have to probably follow him on Instagram now because, oh my goodness, he is so very cute. He's got blue eyes and a little tie and his employee identification badge and little white paws. A bow tie. Of course, he has a bow tie. So it's possible that Dr. Leon will have his own office in the future. There's a quote that says, "We are finalizing the documents to launch an animal rights institute. It's called Instituto Dr. Leon. Unfortunately, we cannot house all the animals, so we will fund the NGOs in town. We will be an example for Brazil to follow. Today, he is very dear to everyone. Even those who didn't like him got used to his presence and have fun with him. His favorite place is President Orine's sofa. He loves to play with his toys." The lawyer cat's representatives explained, also adding the employee is fed regular cat food. 2 months ago, Leon was neutered and is already fully recovered, but veterinarians say he had a problem with his vocal cords as a result of suffering as a baby. He hardly meows, but we keep taking care of him. This motivated us to create the Institute to help abused and abandoned animals. Oh, that's sweet. Oh, poor baby. He had some damage as a youngster. Oh my goodness, now he looks like he's wearing a button-down shirt, a bow tie, and a sweater vest. He is a very stylish cat. And he looks to be sitting on a whole bunch of boxes of chocolate. I don't know why. This is far from the first time a feline has gotten a real job. For example, a cat named Radamensa works at an animal shelter, takes care of sick animals, and tries to nurse them back to health. The catto became a kind-hearted nurse because it survived an inflamed respiratory tract when it was barely 2 months old. And you can check out more cute cat stories on Board Panda. And, of course, you can check out Leon the Lawyer Cat's Instagram page and see all of his cute pictures. This article itself has a ton of pictures. We have talked about animals who have, run for mayor, run for city council before on this podcast. Cat Time writes about several cats that have tried to get into politics, like Barsic, the Scottish, Scottish fold, who got a stunning 91.6% of all the votes in an unofficial poll for mayor of Barnhall, a town in Siberia. Unfortunately, the cat didn't register as an official candidate in the election, so it never ended up becoming mayor. There was also Limberbutt. I'm sorry. Limberbutt McCubbins. Let me stop laughing. Limberbutt McCubbins, a Democratic cat from Kentucky, and Dr. Jekyll, who is fluffy and orange, who both officially registered to run for president of the U.S. Now, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's Mr. Hyde who's the darker of the personalities, right? But still, I don't know that I want anybody named Dr. Jekyll to run for president. Although maybe a cat. Cats have multiple personalities anyway. So, Dr. Leon, I'm just very happy that he had a happy ending to his story. He just took shelter from the storm, and now suddenly he's a doctor. Apparently he has a doctorate. I don't think he's a medical doctor, seeing as how he is a lawyer. He has a wardrobe. He has an Instagram page, and he is adorable. So I love animal stories that work out well. I'm not sure how I would feel about, I'm really allergic to cats, although I think they're very sweet. So I would so want to pet him if he came up to greet me when I entered the law office. Not that I have any plans to go to Brazil anytime soon, but I could not pet him, and I would have to wash my hands if I even got near him. But he's very cute, and I wish him all the luck. And he's clearly a good worker. He got promoted right away, so he must have been doing some excellent work at the firm. We are going to take our first break of the podcast, and when we come back, we'll be talking about what happened at the supposed storming of Area 51. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Before the break, we were talking about Dr. Leon, the cat attorney who was homeless, and now he has all kinds of perks as a cat attorney. And as I mentioned before the break and at the end of last episode, we need to talk about the so-called storming of Area 51, which was scheduled to happen last Friday, the 20th? And, what actually happened? I know I saw one video on social media where a reporter was speaking and somebody ran directly behind him, doing a specific kind of run. I cannot remember what it was, but apparently it was very appropriate for the situation. But I like this first line in an article I read. This is from Vice.com, about what really happened at Storm Area 51. And for starters, no one was vaporized. Or if they were, the CIA did a really good job of covering it up. So, that gets your attention. It was, of course, hard to know what exactly was going to happen. It kind of started as a joke a few months ago, and then people were actually making plans to do so, and then they tried to do a festival, and there was just all kinds of things that happened. It was obvious that most of the 2 million people who said they'd be showing up to the raid were just kidding. But beyond that, according to this article, nothing was clear, and I agree. All the available information suggested it was probably going to be a nightmare. The BBC reported that as many as 50,000 people were expected to turn up. An Air Force spokesperson hinted that they would definitely kill you if you attempted to enter the base. The town of Rachel, Nevada, which was going to be home to a tie-in event called Alien Stock, posted a message on their website warning that there wouldn't be sufficient food or water or lodging available and that they expect riots. The Federal Aviation Administration announced that the airspace around Area 51 would be closed off. The local sheriff said they would be bringing in hundreds of additional paramedics and police from across Nevada. There were warnings that there would be no phone signal, and that the 2-lane highway that serves the area would be clogged, and that the nearest gas station, almost 50 miles away, would probably run out of gas. The phrase Fire Festival, FYRE 2.0 was thrown around a lot. So what did happen? Were there aliens? Was there storming? Was there clogging of traffic? What happened? All of those predictions did not stop brands from trying to get in on the act. Everyone from Funyuns to Durex condoms to Kool-Aid to a Jonas brother sucking every last drop of joy out of the jokes surrounding the event through Area 51 themed marketing. Arby's and Bud Light announced that they would be at the area giving out limited edition products. So this reporter kept that in mind and made sure that she took enough water and food to survive for a week, and pepper spray and a knife in case everything went Mad Max. She was imagining herself spending hours and hours in bumper-to-bumper traffic, ducking the bullets from police as they tried to defend a depleted gas station from looters. I pictured myself turning up my car radio to drown out the screams of PR people from Arby's and Budweiser as they were murdered by mobs for their limited edition Area 51 themed food and drinks. I saw myself looking on in horror as teen after teen got vaporized by the military for stepping over the boundary of Area 51 for the sake of a TikTok video. She is definitely dramatic, and I like the dramatic nature of her article. When I arrived in Rachel, pretty much everyone I encountered was covering the event. I was approached by a man from a local news channel who asked if he could interview me. I declined, telling him that I was also a journalist. Not long after, I asked a guy if I could interview him, and he told me he was there writing an article. He said almost everyone he'd tried to interview was there covering it too. There were also a lot of YouTubers filming stuff. From what I overheard, they seemed to speak only in references to the Storm Area 51 meme, repeating the same few phrases about clapping alien cheeks and seeing dem aliens like extremely online hodors. Eventually, more civilians started to trickle in. Some were there to party. Some were there. Some were there because they were hoping somebody would be dumb enough to actually try to storm it. Some were there because they really are deeply into alien stuff. One woman showed her a printed out security camera stills that she said showed real aliens playing blackjack in a casino. And I'm fairly sure they were really just bald men, she says, who I sincerely hope that they are not aware that their image is actually being used as proof of alien life. Yeah, hope so. Another woman handed her a flyer for an organization called Snow Stone Studio, who believed that Area 51 is hiding the second coming of Jesus as part of an Illuminati plot to destroy China or something. So it's hard to tell how many people were there in total because everyone was spread out between Alien Stock, another festival called Area 51 Base Camp 20 miles down the road, and the various Area 51 entrances around the area. Most reporting on the weekend seems to have attendance at between 1,500 and 2,000, low enough that Area 51 Base Camp was canceled after the first of its 2 scheduled days. On the actual night of the raid, nobody seemed sure what was going on. The main confusion was around where everyone was supposed to be exactly. The complex that houses Area 51 is approximately the size of Connecticut, and the Facebook invite didn't specify which entrance everyone should meet at. At 3 a.m., the event's scheduled start time, around 75 people gathered at the gate nearest to Rachel. The raid never materialized. It was mostly people taking pictures of themselves, Naruto running. That's the word I was trying to think of earlier. And then being interviewed by some of the many journalists and YouTubers that were there to capture the proceedings. So, not really much happened, according to the cops. Several people actually did step over the boundary of the base and were either arrested or given a stern talking to. A Canadian guy was also arrested for indecent exposure after peeing on the base's fence. Lovely. No one was vaporized, as she said, as the beginning of the article said, unless the CIA was really, really good at covering it up. There was also some confusion as to when 3 a.m. on September 20th was actually supposed to occur. The date and time, which were listed on the Facebook invite, actually referred to a similar number of people turned up at the same gate on the following night. They also did not storm the base. Oh, goodness. I'm just fascinated by this whole process. So it sounds like people at least got to gather and be weird and silly and take selfies and do crazy stuff and celebrate, but that not any raiding happened, which is good because that was just a really bad idea. I'm trying to figure out if the person who actually set up the Facebook page and invite was even there, or if even he skipped the whole process. There's lots of pictures, pictures of aliens, pictures of alien paraphernalia. No, like souvenir kind of things. It doesn't look like really anything happened except for some crazy partying, which is not surprising. So there you go. Area 51 did not get raided. Nobody got vaporized. A couple people got arrested, but one of them was peeing on a fence. So that is understandable, at least in the terms of being arrested. We're going to take our second break of the podcast, and when we come back, we're moving on from cat lawyers and storming of Area 51 to talk about some vacations and some interesting ways of taking vacations. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, and I'll be right back.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello and welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. As I said before the break, we have talked about homeless cats who become Instagram stars and cat lawyers. We've talked about the non-starting storming of Area 51, and now we need something silly, but lighter silly. And I saw this recently on, I think, Twitter. I follow author Sandra Boynton. Definitely follow her on the Book Review Twitter. She does children's books, lots of board books. She draws lots of animals, etc. If you're not familiar with her, she is a lot of fun, and I enjoy reading her to the small people in my life. But she posted about this story, and it made me look into it a little more. So it turns out that toys are taking vacations and seeing the world without their owners. This is a social media trend that has spawned several travel agencies and even passports just for stuffies, just for your stuffed animals. So, Sono Azumo was 4 years old when she got her first stuffed toy, and this story comes to us from getpocket.com. An American woman who worked for the U.S. Air Force Base in Japan used to live next door to us, she says, and she gave me a big Snoopy as a Christmas present. The stuffed beagle became an inseparable companion throughout her childhood in Japan, something like a friend or a little brother. It's not an unfamiliar feeling, of course, to anyone who grew up with a favorite stuffy, which I did. His name was Teddy, not the most original name for teddy bear, but I was 8 months old when I got him, so who knows if I named him or somebody else named him, if I named him later in life. But my auntie made him for me, and I still have him today. He is in the guest room in my house. Azuma grew up, but as she got older, she discovered a passion for soft toys. This time it was a handmade eel, which she named Unagi, which is eel in Japanese, that she took on with her on trips. She said she just thought it was fun. I blogged the photos and made my friends smile and made me smile, she says. I thought it was a fun and creative way to share my daily life. Azuma isn't alone. Lots of adults make toys a centerpiece of their travel dispatches. I actually have to admit that I have another bear. His name is Pedro Felipe, and my husband and I have this whole ongoing thing about taking pictures of Pedro in various places. And I'll tell you that story some other day. But in 2014, Shanna Robinson, a graduate student at Western Sydney University's Institute for Culture and Society, saw a trend worthy of study as part of her doctoral research. When I started chatting to people about the practice of taking a toy traveling, she says, I was shocked at how widespread it was. Almost every person I spoke to knew someone who had taken a toy traveling. Robinson, whose interest in the topic was inspired by a chapter on traveling mascots in the Lonely Planet Guide to Experimental Travel, a compendium of unusual travel ideas, then spent months studying the Flickr community Traveling Toys. This was founded in 2005, and the group now has 2,498 members and 47,600 photos. That's pretty impressive. For her study, Robinson analyzed a sample of images and asked members to fill in a short survey about their travel behavior. She then identified some common trends, such as the desire to accumulate travel culture capital by sharing pics of toys posed in world tourism hotspots. Think Dexter the toy chipmunk at Monument Valley, a panda bear strolling through Red Square in Moscow, a teddy checking out Starry Most in Bosnia. It highlights the connection between the phenomenon of the traveling toy and broader cultural logics of tourism, Robinson says. Something about pictures of toys by famous world landmarks makes a certain breed of traveler feel particularly worldly, the familiar and the foreign together as if it's the most natural thing in the world. After a while, Azuma's friends started asking her if they could take unagi with them abroad, and they began sending photos of the eel beside famous landmarks as well. Seeing unagi in Paris or in New York while I was in Tokyo was inspiring and fun, she says. It was a great way to see different parts of the world. I keep thinking of the movie Amelie, where the gnome goes traveling, but the dad doesn't know how it's happening. Don't want to give too much away on that, but it's very cute. Soon, she realized that the concept might appeal to a wider audience. So, in 2010, Azuma quit her job in Tokyo's financial industry to start a travel agency. Not just any travel agency, but one that caters exclusively to stuffed animals. At the beginning, people thought it was a crazy idea. Who would pay for this? But I knew that this would make people who can't travel, like disabled kids, old people, or low-income families, smile. She decided to name it after its inspiration. To date, Unagi Travel Agency has organized trips for more than 100 stuffed animals, many of which have become repeat customers. Prices for trips vary depending on the destination, but standard tours of Tokyo and its surroundings go for around $50. Clients ship their toys to Azuma, and they stay with her for 2 or 3 weeks, during which time their adventures are promptly reported back to their owners via social media posts. At the end of the tour, Azuma ships them home. Tours include visits to the capital's most iconic landmarks, as well as a variety of other activities. I take them to yoga classes, soccer games, marathons, or visiting car factories like Mazda, as I think they, the clients, enjoy these activities more than just sightseeing or eating out at restaurants. This is in line with another trend identified by Robinson, anthropomorphism of toys in poses that imitate human behavior. From poses to accompanying captions, there was a clear trend of toys appearing to experience travel like real people. The toys were photographed worried about missing public transportation, deciding on their next meal, and of course, posing in front of famous tourist sites, she explains. Oh my gosh, there's a picture of the animals doing the animals doing yoga. Snoopy is doing yoga on his own tiny little yoga mat. For example, one caption below a teddy bear riding the Eurostar train from London to Paris read, "I made it onto the train. There was a bit of drama when I got separated from my traveling buddy in the London Underground, but we got together in the end. Also, they gave me breakfast on the train, and I got a nice view of the English countryside on my way to France." Before taking the cuddly companions out, Azuma asks their owners to fill out a short questionnaire. She relies on these to inform the trips, but also goes with her gut. "Last week I had a rabbit, Dennis, joining from Washington in the U.S. I wasn't sure if he liked Japanese food, but I felt he was enjoying it, so I expressed that in the photos and videos I shared," she says. Maybe half is based on the profile, but half is imagination that comes from communicating with the stuffed animals. This is the sweetest story ever. To Azuma, this kind of relationship with toys is actually something that can help people struggling with anxiety or depression. She shared the story of a boy who had stopped going to school after being bullied. His mother was worried to see her son just staying at home with no connections with the outside world. She sent his stuffed animal on a trip, and he enjoyed seeing the outside world and seeing his stuffed animal getting along well with other stuffed animals. Eventually, he became interested in going outside. After the trip, the boy went to visit Azuma with his mother and eventually returned to school. Now he's a high school student. He's still shy and has some challenges, but he's attending classes. Oh, so cute. Here's a picture of several stuffed toys in the snow in the French Alps. Of course, taking photos of stuffed animals over dinner or on the subway comes with its own challenges, such as looking weird to the uninitiated. When I took my first customer, Lars, a gorilla from Hawaii, on a tour of Paris, I was worried of what people would think about taking photos of such a peluche, French for stuffed toy, says Sabine Passalagou. Passalagou, inspired by the trip her daughter's stuffed bee took with Azuma, opened a similar service called Peluche Travel Agency in France with Azuma's blessing. The French woman has since taken around 50 guests on more than 40 tours around France. Her most regular customers are older people who cannot travel anymore and are happy to explore the world vicariously. For me, she says, the best part of this job is to share what I see. It's a pleasure to allow people to discover my country and its lifestyle. She admits that she still worries about people looking at her like she is quite crazy with her peluches, but most of the time people share her joy, even police on the Champs-Elysees. So cute. More pictures. Oh, this bear has his own passport. That is very sweet. It's from a German company, Oma Animali, which makes passports for stuffed animals, including one for this teddy bear. Robinson doesn't know for sure when the toy travel trend began. Here we go. The gnome in the movie, the 2001 movie, and it's a French film, I didn't mention that, Amélie, may have helped to popularize it. But in the last decade, social media platforms have led to the birth of something like a toy travel ecosystem. In addition to the agencies in Japan and France, there is now Toy Voyagers, a website that connects traveling toys with hosts, and Omanamali? Sorry, a toy passport issuing organization based in Germany. Back in the 1990s, I was traveling in Asia with my stuffed animal, Illegal, a hedgehog glove puppet, and a friend gave me a sort of passport he had, which I turned into Illegal's passport. With her photo and data, says Stephanie Tushin, who founded Omanimal in 2013. It was quite fun, and even though I was already grown up by that time. And there's a picture of that original passport. Very sweet. So, to date, Omanamali has issued 852 passports. The first one was tested with the German Federal Border Guard at the Munich airport. They had so much fun with the passport that they ordered one for the teddy bear they keep in their office, Tushin says. In fact, several of her clients tell stories of dour immigration officers and how the toy passports tend to break down their serious veneer. More often than not, they actually stamp the passports. Tushin says that the idea is really about emotional connection and finding a different way to look at the world, and this echoes what Robinson ultimately found most important in her study of the trend. When people see the world through the eyes of their toys, it can seem fresh, new, exciting, and most of all, unique. After all, isn't that what we often seek and crave when we set out to travel? So very sweet. I didn't realize I was part of a trend when I took pictures of my bear, Pedro Felipe, at different places. He has been to Florida. He's been to Montana. He's been to Snake River in Idaho. He actually helped me propose to my husband through a series of pictures that I made into a book. Where else has he been? Mexico. He went with us on our honeymoon to Mexico. He should have had a passport. He's been to Ohio and Alabama. I think that might be it. Possibly more places, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. So he definitely needs to travel more, and I need to take pictures. I need to take more pictures of him. At any rate, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Weird News Podcast, the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Again, hope you're having a great week. Join me again on Thursday, when we'll talk about more weird news. But in the meantime, I would like for you to stay weird as well. Thanks.